That's what still gets me. No screams, no cries for help, just nothing. Moscow, Idaho, a community where doors were never locked, where college students walked home under starry nights, never a second thought. But on one chilly November evening, that sense of security was stripped away, and 4 young lives vanished into the quiet. The world would soon learn that the killer wasn't a faceless drifter or masked monster. He was one of them, a man who did not simply study the criminal minds. He was one. November 13th, 2022. A Sunday morning. It began just as any other in Moscow, Idaho. Tranquil streets, empty sidewalks, coffee brewing in student apartments. But at 1122 King Road, something unfathomable had already transpired. Inside that off-campus apartment, 4 University of Idaho students were brutally murdered in their beds. Kaylee Gonzalez, Madison Maddie Mogan, Zan Kernodle, and Ethan Chapin, stabbed to death, some while they slept, some possibly awake, fighting for their lives. No one had heard a sound, not the neighbors, not even the 2 other roommates who slept on the ground floor. Kaylee and Maddie were best friends from the time they were children. Sunny, smart alecky, inseparable, traveling plans, professional aspirations, new apartments. Zan was intelligent, feisty, one of those wild child types. Her boyfriend Ethan was a gentle soul and vivacious, a triplet, perpetually surrounded by family. They had spent the night out like normal students. Kaylee and Maddie bought late-night snacks. Zana and Ethan came back from a party. The house was dark and quiet at 4 a.m. At 4:20, it was a crime scene. Police were summoned after a general 911 call by one of the surviving roommates. The dispatcher was told that a person was unconscious, but when police entered the home, what they found shook them to their core. There was blood on the walls, seeping through the floors. The injuries were brutal, deep, suggestive of repeated blows. It wasn't murder, it was rage. And then they found it, a knife sheath left on Maddie's bed. Forensic examiners recovered a single male DNA profile from the snap button. No matches in the database, so the hunt was on. It was uncovered by digital forensics. There was video evidence of a white Hyundai Elantra passing by the house multiple times, 4 times between 3:30 and 4:20 a.m. It belonged to nobody in the household. Weeks afterward, though, police tracked it to a guy by the name of Bryan Kohberger, a 28-year-old PhD student in criminology, a 10-mile drive away at Washington State University. The more they searched, the more horrible it was. His phone rang outside the house 12 times in the days before the killings. It died on the night of the murders, turned off just short of 3 a.m., and then turned on shortly after 4:45 a.m., traveling south out of town. Kohberger wasn't a stranger to the criminal mind. He'd learned about it, taught it, asked questions like, how do criminals choose their victims, on research forums? And now he was one. He was taken into custody at his parents' home in Pennsylvania on December 30th, 2022. Calm, unemotional, no confession, no rationale.
This morning in the murders of the 4...
You don't want to affect the jurors who are considering the evidence DNA so that he can't be identified or connected to the...
Initially, he'd pleaded not guilty. But on July 2nd, 2025, nearly 3 years later, Kohberger stood in court and spoke the words everyone had been anticipating. I killed them. He took a plea deal to avoid the death penalty. He pleaded guilty to the killings. But even that, he gave no motive, no reason, no rationales. Off the record, though, some of the families were informed more. Specifically, the Gonzalez family, Kaylee's mom, dad, and sister. Her father, Steve, then revealed to us in a subsequent interview what had been shown to him by the police. Sickening digital evidence. Kohberger, he disclosed, had been watching violent pornography. Unconscious, gagged women. Sickening, degenerate. And to them it made sense. They believed Kaylee was the target, that Kohberger had been stalking her online, that he hadn't randomly picked a house, he picked her. The July 23rd, 2025 sentencing finally confronted the families with their worst fear. Zana's aunt got up and forgave him. She claimed she could not harbor hate anymore.
No sentence or punishment will ever come close to the justice Zana, Ethan, Kaylee, and Maddie deserve.
Zana's stepfather was not that lucky. Go to hell, he spat at Kohberger, his voice trembling. Ethan's parents were gracious, calm. They claimed the sentence brought some level of peace.
He's gonna get what's coming to him. I really don't care what happens to the guy. He's off the streets. He can't hurt any more kids.
Maddie's stepfather proclaimed it justice. "We'll never get on with things," he said, "but perhaps now we can go forward." But Kaylee's sister, Olivia, had no patience for peace. She stared him down, unflinching. "You are a psychopath, a sociopath, a murderer," she said to him. "Sit up straight when I am addressing you." Her words sliced the courtroom. Even Kohberger looked up.
In their sleep, in the middle of the night, like a pedophile, Kaylee would have kicked your ass. Thank you.
Thank you.
Kaylee's dad testified second. Steve Gonzalez called the plea deal and betrayal. "The system failed us," he said. "You killed my daughter, and you didn't even have the decency to tell me why."
Wrong state, wrong police officers, the wrong community. You tried to break our community apart. You tried to plant fear. You tried to divide us. You failed. Instead, your actions have united everyone in their disgust for you.
The judge, Stephen Hippler, wasn't reserved either. He called Kohberger a faceless coward.
During the quiet morning hours of November 13, 2022, faceless coward reached the tranquility of 6 beautiful young people.
Then sentenced him to 4 consecutive life terms in prison with no chance of parole and 10 years for burglary and more than $270,000 in restitution and fines.
I hereby sentence Mr. Kohberger as follows. On count 1, burglary, 10 years fixed, 0 years indeterminate. I also impose a fine of $50,000. Count 2, first-degree murder of Madison Mogan, Kaylee Gonzalez, Xana Kernodle, Ethan Chapin. I sentence the defendant to a fixed term of life imprisonment without the possibility of parole, a fine of $50,000, and a civil penalty of $5,000 payable to the family of the victim.
But even the judge admitted no court could ever replace what had been taken. No sentence could ever be enough. The very next morning, a bombshell. Over 300 pages of police reports were made public. New information never before revealed. One of the remaining roommates had given police a statement that she had seen the same man peering into Kaylee's window days before the slayings. The front door was partially damaged during that night.
I was so frantic that morning and scared to death, not knowing what had happened. And when I made the 911 call, I couldn't even get out the words. And from then on, I don't remember a thing. It was like my brain wiped that whole memory.
There had been eyes on that house, or perhaps just one man's. And then entered something nobody could have anticipated. A voice that had remained silent came forward at last. Dylan Mortensen, the surviving roommate, stood in front of the courtroom and faced Kohberger. She talked about the trauma, the guilt, the fear.
Your Honor, what happened that night changed everything. Because of him, we're beautiful, genuine, passionate people were taken from this world for no reason.
And then made a statement that made the entire room go silent. He attempted to steal everything from me, but he will never silence my voice.
What he did shattered me in places I didn't know could break.
Her voice was strong, blunt, and louder than a scream. In the end, Kohberger never explained why he did it, never spoke of being sorry, never looked at the families. He entered, admitted to killing 4 young adults, and sat down. But the families, they did not remain silent. They stood, they remembered, and they would not let their loved ones become more than names in a courtroom. 4 lives lost before they were even able to begin. Ethan, Kaylee, Xana, Madison. Their laughter is in the minds of those who love them. Their bedrooms are frozen in time. Their families still leave their seats at the table empty, still check their phones for a call that never comes. Bryan Kohberger thought he could come in, take those lives, and become a specter in the system. But what he wasn't aware of is that their stories don't stop with him. They continue in the voices of those they loved, in the bravery of a roommate who would not stay quiet, in a community that will not forget, and in a nation that witnessed and mourned. Perhaps there will never be answers. Perhaps there will never be peace. But there will be remembrance. And there will be justice voiced, remembered, and not silenced. Subscribe to Swan Moon for more crime stories.